Welcome back to New Day on TV3 live from the studios here, bringing you quality content and entertainment. So we are going straight to the next segment of our discussion this morning on New Day. As of now, there's a question about gender, and a specific policy is being put together to encourage a lot more gender balance and, get more women into entrepreneurship. I've been joined by two persons who are going to be helping me have this conversation this morning. We have Anatu Ben Lawal, who is the Project Director, Women's Entrepreneurship and Livelihood Initiative, and then also Franklin Owusu Kakari. He's the Director of Business and Policy, NEIP Ghana. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time this morning. Let's go straight into the conversation. Clearly, I think over the years, the conversation has been had about encouraging a lot more women to participate in almost everything, not just politics, but then even in entrepreneurship. It looks as if we have more women in that avenue, but now we are looking at drafting a specific policy to encourage a lot more and have, a document that focuses on helping and encouraging a lot more women also to participate in entrepreneurship. I would want to start with Anatu, I'm told Anatu has just gone off, but Franklin is with us. Franklin is the Director of Business and Policy at NEIP. The question I'm putting to you this morning, Franklin, will be that what would you say generally has been the participation of women when it comes to issues of entrepreneurship? Are we getting the numbers? Are they increasing, or there has been, an outright flat line?
All right, thank you, Martin, and good morning to our viewers. For me, Ghanaian women are very enterprising, and globally, you can see that Ghana was ranked recently as #2, where women are very enterprising. So for women in the space of entrepreneurship in Ghana, for me, is something that our mothers are excelling at it. They are, even with their small capital, they are trying to do something to be able to put food on the table in their homes. And the numbers are not reducing, it's increasing. We are having the numbers of women entering into the entrepreneurship space and entering into the self-employment space. Despite all these things that women are trying to do in the space, we face some challenges, and which our discussion today will seek to bring out some of the issues that they are facing. But the numbers are increasing. We are having more women entering into the entrepreneurship space.
And would you attribute that to maybe encouragement or policy that has been, a deliberate policy that has been rolled out to get them on, or these are, by their individual initiatives, seeing opportunities in trying to venture into entrepreneurship and starting or taking up that venture?
All right, it comes in two ways. First of all, traditionally, most of the women were faced with issue of single parenthood. So it becomes a necessity for them to begin something on their own. So necessity entrepreneurship came in because they are faced with the challenge of doing something on their own. So they go all out to try and do something to take care of their children, feed their family, and be able to support a community. So that is number. And number two, recently you can see that there's been a surge, especially from the professional level, because young women are seeing that, look, they can also begin to raise companies that can go global. They can also begin to come into the space where men are doing big things. So policies and current exposure and what's happening is also encouraging, especially the young women, to also take up this not only as a necessity, but as an opportunity entrepreneurship.
Right. Okay. So those are two key issues that have driven, the numbers up. I'm told that we have Anatu with us. Anatu, good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Good to have you join us. Anatu Ben Lawal is the Project Director, Women's Entrepreneurship and Livelihood Initiative. Listening to what Franklin said, we seem to be having a lot more women in the entrepreneurship space. In fact, the numbers, he says, are rising. Why do we need a specific policy document on this?
Thank you. I think very encouraged by what my brother Franklin just shared. And I think there has been a surge in female entrepreneurs throughout history, and this always happens at the micro level. What we are looking at is how do we now scale these women up to own large and medium and large scale businesses to ensure that they have become captains of their industry. You know, women are not really engaging, especially when government announces a lot of these programs, pro bono things, investment, etc. And one of the reasons is because, first of all, they have different ways of engaging. They have different ways of accessing finance. Their reasons for doing business is usually more emotional than men. It doesn't make them wrong, but it's different. So when we look at the whole landscape around the issue of value chains, creativity, innovation, etc., women engage differently. They also have, they don't have the luxury of being able to have as much free time as men do to be able to process some of these things. So sometimes you find that when you're running entrepreneurship programs, it helps when you do it in the evenings because that's when the childcare has been taken care of, etc., and they are being relieved. So these are the specific issues that we want to look at because now we are in a post-pandemic world. We now have to look at how are we going to create more and more employment. Right. And it has to do with everybody in the country, both private sector and government, coming together and looking at the specific needs and specific financing vehicles that women can have access to and be able to produce these types of entrepreneurs who can then go on to employ other women. Okay. That's the challenge we have now. So we need to look at the whole value chain, starting from the issue of creativity, innovation. How do we diversify our value chains? How do we bring more women in? How do we diversify the workforce? And how do we supply it to the end to ensure that all these women are taken care of at their various levels of need?
Right, and let me take off from where you landed, having to do with the scalability, making sure that these women who are already within the space, you know, mount up and take and become captains of their industry, like you mentioned. What do you foresee are some of the challenges within this specific period we are in? You know, like you mentioned, we are in a post-pandemic era. What are the challenges you foresee that we need to encourage our women to rise above to be captains of industry?
Okay. We need to specifically begin to engage and talk to women and find out what to make them respond. And I'm not even talking from a financing point of view. I'm talking from a point of view of even the training. Do we have enough representation, even at the level of women running hubs? It's very male dominated. And that is one of the things that is also the issue. The entrepreneurship space is very much male dominated. I believe that government is trying, NBSSI is trying, but it's still not enough. We need to come up and then begin to produce innovations and produce women who are producing groundbreaking innovations and be able to take that to the world and create international value chains in order for us to be able to create the kind of employment and jobs that this country needs to address the issue of unemployment at the moment.
Right. Okay, let me bring in Franklin again. Franklin, talk to us about the role government is playing in this and how they intend to help the entire value chain of the entrepreneurship process, especially the ones that have female or women involvement.
All right, thank you, Martin. If you look at the issues Anatu is talking about, these are real issues and we cannot gloss over. And International Labour Organization puts these issues which government is tackling under 5 pillars. Number one, socio-cultural barriers, which has created problems. Then infrastructure, educational and occupation barriers, role barriers, and behavioral barriers. These are 5 critical stuff that we can put all the challenges women are facing under in terms of entrepreneurship. And in this area, government said, okay, so how do we address these issues? And government picks them one by, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, and under SDG 5, which looks at gender equality, it has about close to almost 9 to 10 indicators which shows that is any government making progress in this area in terms of trying to be able to achieve these kinds of bringing the women also to the forefront of entrepreneurship. Number one of these indicators that we are looking if government is really working is end discrimination against women and girls. We are still facing though, but government is trying to see, and there's promotion of how to be able to bring this discrimination to an end. And many NGOs and other organizations are all trying their, even including the media, trying their bit to ensure that discrimination is reduced to the barest minimum, and all violence against exploitation of women. You see, if a woman wants mentorship for her business, she goes to see a mentor, The next thing, she's taking advantage of sexually. So how do we begin to be able to address these things, even in terms of infrastructure, in the area of policy, in the area of affordable funding, in the area of technology? Women are disadvantaged. So how do we then incorporate these things in? So if you look at the policy issues coming from different angles, even from our entrepreneurship policy, we are now beginning to ensure that there is a reliable infrastructure in terms of affordable financing for women entrepreneurs. So if you look at NEIP, we have a program known as Women Entrepreneurs with Disability, empowering them. So we give specifically funding given to women entrepreneurs with disability. And these are all means to be able to bridge the gap. We're also looking at ensuring full participation in leadership and decision making. Gradually, we are beginning to see some changes coming in, promoting empowerment of women. All these things, government in a way is trying to be able to do this through different organizations. And this is why we are happy with what African Skills Hub is trying to do, trying to identify all the policy gender gaps in all the various policies that are within the space, to see that is there enough policy, and these policies, are they deliberate and well targeted, so that we can be able to now, if they are not enough, if there are gaps, we can now be able to deliberately infuse these things in every policy framework that we develop to ensure that we are creating the enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Government is trying to do it bit, but we need to be able to ensure that we are deliberate about it, and we are trying to ensure that it comes to pass for women in this country.
Okay, let's wrap up the conversation now. Anatu, help us with the rollout. How is this going to roll out? Which sectors or individuals or people are you engaging, and how soon are we expected to have this concrete document in place to at least make sure that whenever it comes to issues of women empowerment, entrepreneurship, the policy, there is a backing document to that effect?
We are actually engaging the gender ecosystem in terms of using the gender networks, entrepreneurship networks, the social enterprise networks as well, and all the financing, most of the financing institutions to come up with this policy. Now, this toolkit. Now, we have been working on reviewing it for the last 3 months, and hopefully at the end of this month, the document will be ready, and we'll have a high-level meeting where we will invite our dear Franklin and similar in government to sit down and let's begin to dialogue and come up with a plan and some key takeaways that we can begin to infuse in our system. The burden is not only on government, but it's also on all levels of society. We have to create the jobs of the future. Aid has come to an end, and it's time that we as Africans begin to look again and stop looking at various solutions that from overseas, etc., and begin to look inwardly at how we can create the various markets that will enable us to have the livelihoods that we need for women. We are addressing this issue because, as Franklin mentioned, there's a direct link between lack of opportunity and finance and money for women and sexual and gender-based violence. When our women are reduced to remaining in poverty, then they resort to all kinds of treatment and belief systems, etc., and endure all kinds of agonizing, extremely excruciating, very terrible behaviors, etc. So when you empower the woman and empower her economically, at least we know that all societies and communities will be taken care of, children will be taken care of. So that's the ripple effect that we are looking at. The difference between a woman who does not have employment and the woman who has employment, the difference when you look at the sexual and gender-based statistics is very vast. So this is not just we are creating entrepreneurship opportunities for women for the sake of that, but we are looking at the long-term future in terms of what happens around that specific area of sexual and gender-based violence, especially in this post-pandemic period.
And my final question to you is, normally when these high-level, high-profile meetings and documents and policies are being put together, it hardly trickles down to the ordinary Ghanaian woman or woman on the street. What is the plan in place to make sure that, yes, there's a high-level delegations and meetings, but then everybody in the value chain benefits, especially the everyday woman on the street?
Okay. I believe that when we do that presentation, we are looking at forming a working group between government and the entrepreneurship ecosystem at all levels. Frequent dialogues is necessary for this to go forward, and we are planning to do that and taking that forward. We at Africa Skills Hub are very committed. I believe the ecosystem is also committed to that, and to spearhead this initiative and ensure that over the years we continue and we continue to address this issue, that it doesn't just become a talk shop, but that we also bring it down to the local level. So after we finish with the high-level meeting, we're also having some social enterprise forums here in Tamale, etc., and beginning to look at what does the future hold for us, what does the future hold for business, and what does the future hold for women, especially in this period where aid has come to an end, and we are now looking inwardly at generating our own income.
All right, thank you so much. Franklin, your final words before we bring this interview to a close.
Well, thank you, Martin. And I want to say that there are huge opportunities for women in this country. And gradually, we are going to get there, seeing more women, bringing up micro multinationals and good businesses in this country. So we urge all women, don't be caught in your shells. Just come out boldly, take advantage of whatever interventions government is putting in place to ensure that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 5 and for the betterment of our country. So let's urge on, and I believe that we can make our country better and a nice place for women entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Franklin Owusu Kakari. He's the Director of Business and Policy, NEIP Ghana, and also you heard and saw Anatu Ben Lawal. She is the Project Director, Women's Entrepreneurship and Livelihood Initiative. Well, so, I mean, join the conversation. Be sure that you're a part of this big agenda of making sure we have a lot, at least there should be a balance, gender balance when it comes to persons who venture into entrepreneurship. Let's encourage more women who we are told are doing exploits and, gaining more grounds. This is still New Day on TV3.